if you're looking for someone to blame, you need only to look in a mirror. Can't stand BS here on our channel, especially me, and well, more so than Megan. And what I really can't sort of abide by is people like in the automotive industry, or people on YouTube, or journalists or whatever, making these sort of wholesale sweeping generalizations about any model. I'm just using the Tacoma as an example, without providing, thorough evidence to back it up, or examining sort of the overall market trends and prices. Context matters. Nothing happens in a vacuum, except in outer space, because it's a vacuum. In regards to Tacoma pricing, when you're talking about the Toyota Tacoma, the new Toyota Tacoma, I think two things are happening. There's sort of like unsubstantiated claims, and then there is a lack of context, like just a complete unawareness of market forces. So let's unpack this with a little fact versus fiction versus common sense. And if you agree or disagree with anything that I'm saying in this sort of, news-related article piece that I'm making right now, please let me know in the comments. I'm all for kind of a thorough debate when it comes to these sort of things, but just have some facts and figures to back it up. Oh, and if you want to talk about powertrains, go check out my powertrain video that I already made about the Toyota Tacoma powertrains. Well, all Toyota powertrains when it comes to turbocharging. I know there's strong opinions about that as well. That video was meant as more of like a hypothesizing type of video. I know there's been some recent negative news, with the twin turbo V6 and main bearing failures, but that's a discussion for another time. Let's stick with Toyota Tacoma pricing for now. Okay, so let's start with facts. I'm going to lay out the simplest fact right away. The new Toyota Tacoma is more expensive, but remember context. So is the Ford Ranger, so is the Chevy Colorado and its twin, the GMC Canyon. They are also more expensive. How about this? Let's throw out some numbers. The new Toyota Tacoma starts around $31,500. The Chevy Colorado, $29,500. The Ford Ranger, $32,500. And the ancient Nissan Frontier, $30,500. These are ballpark figures, dealer markups, manufacturer estimates and all that, but I'm sort of keeping it as simple as possible for comparison's sake. Even accounting for those things, that's a spread of just $3,000 across all midsize truck models, with the Chevy Colorado coming in at the bottom, Ford Ranger coming in at the top, and the Toyota Tacoma and Nissan Frontier smack dab in the middle. So what if you want the cheapest configuration with four-wheel drive? For simplicity's sake, and because some of them only really come this way, we'll do a quad cab configuration with a 5-foot bed. Toyota will sell you a Toyota Tacoma SR for $36,200. That's not cheap, but then the Ford Ranger is basically exactly the same, a little more actually. The Nissan Frontier comes in right around $35,000, just under $35,000, and it does come with a more powerful engine to start with. And the Chevy Colorado, well, it kind of wins this competition. You can get four-wheel drive as cheap as about $34,000 and change, about $34,400, $34,500. So once again, the Tacoma's more expensive, but so is the Ranger, so is the Frontier, compared to how midsize trucks used to be. And the Chevy Colorado, despite it winning this, is still more expensive. That's actually just a small separation of $2,000 between those four pickup trucks. Okay, so let's try to make the Toyota Tacoma lose, because people are so dead set against its pricing structure, because it is, noticeably more expensive. So let's go with one of the ones that people have been complaining about the most. Let's estimate a Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-road, spec'd as close as we can to some of its nearest competitors. So a Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-road with its front disconnecting sway bar, which absolutely should be part of the off-road package, Toyota. What are you doing there? Rings in at $54,565, give or take. I'm using sort of website pricing, looking at each of the manufacturer's websites. I can already hear some of you saying, see, I told you so. I knew it. I knew it. It was going to be more expensive. And remember, this video is about facts, so I'm not gonna lie here. I'm not here to defend the Toyota Tacoma necessarily. I just wanna have more of a meaningful discussion rather than just see people make wild substantiated claims. So let's look at the competitors. So a 2024 Ford Ranger Lariat 4-wheel drive comes in at around 50,000 and change, right? And you're like, yeah, okay, of course. See, I told you so. I was right all along. Well, hold on there, because if you add the FX4 package trim, you're at that low 50 range, but I would argue that the Tremor package is a closer comparison to the TRD Off-road, especially because the new Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-road is notably better than the previous Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-road. In fact, I would say, and I've said this in previous videos, that the current TRD Off-road is sort of like the former TRD Pro in terms of like what you're getting. Now, there is no Tremor package for the Ford Ranger as of right now, but if there was, it would probably be about $2,000 to $3,000 more expensive, and that would put it within $1,000 of the Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-road. Now, what about our value champions so far among the brand new sort of midsize trucks, the Chevy Colorado? Well, you could get a Chevy Colorado with the ZR2 package for like right around $50,000, a non-bison trim, which makes it an insane value among this class. This wasn't meant to be a Chevy Colorado stand video, but sort of turning out that way. I mean, I think that's an incredible looking truck. Ironically, it's the only truck on our channel that we haven't tested yet. Chevy, please send me one, preferably a ZR2 Bison. Oh, and what about the lovable old Nissan Frontier? Well, the Nissan Frontier Pro 4X trim starts at right around $40,000, just over $40,000 to kind of equip it with similar options. And that is an incredible value if you don't mind the, older chassis and infotainment and stuff like that. And I'm not knocking it because I think the Nissan Frontier is pretty great. So if you want to maximize your dollar and get a pretty rock solid 4-wheel drive system, the Pro 4X definitely should be on your list. Oh, and by the way, the new Nissan Frontier, I think it's called the Hard Body Edition, all in with everything, is like 46 grand. That's an awesome price for a really kind of cool looking truck in my opinion. So if you want to stretch your dollar as far as it will go, definitely Nissan Frontier. Now let's wrap up this video with the most expensive versions of each truck. Well, not the Nissan Frontier, because I just told you the hard body is where it tops out at 46, so we've already covered that. But this is where the Toyota Tacoma has picked up a lot of hate, because people do not like the pricing of the TRD Pro or the new Trailhunter trim. And for the TRD Pro all in, you're over $65,000, which is bonkers. Our value king, the Chevy Colorado with ZR2 with all of the Bison gear, is going to come in about $64,000. Now, I would argue, and again, haven't driven that one yet, but if you look at the specs on paper, I would argue that the Bison is even more capable and more impressive. So I would say, even though these prices are eye-wateringly expensive, the Bison for what it can do is probably the better buy. Hey, but don't forget about the Ford Ranger, the 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor. Well, you can get into one of those for a smidge under $60,000. So Ford wins this round with the, well, I think insanely priced Ford Ranger Raptor. The fact that you can pick up one of those for just under 60, again, we're assuming that, dealer markups and them trying to gouge you and stuff doesn't exist. It's not limited to Toyota. Another thing I hear all the time, no, Toyota dealer markups. All dealer markups you should avoid and not patronize them or give them your business. It's a big country with big regions. Find someone else if they're trying to hose you, okay? Don't pay it. But the fact that the Ranger Raptor kind of starts in that price range, that's fantastic value at that like upper limit. But I told you that there was aspects of this video that were going to be unpleasant to talk about, and that I was not approaching this from a bias standpoint, simply wanting to add context. As V says in the movie V for Vendetta, if you're looking for someone to blame, you need only to look in a mirror, because we are the ones that made the prices this high, not the corporations, not the automakers. They are simply following the ridiculous demand that we have created. It wasn't Ford or Chevy that decided to stuff the F-150 and the Chevy Silverado full of more luxurious goods and options and packages and make them into essentially luxury vehicles. It was us. We started driving full-size trucks as status symbols, as everyday vehicles, as like wealth kind of surrogates. We made that choice. Do you know what the starting price of a Ford F-150 was in 2010? Do you know? Take a guess. It was $23,000, which if you convert for inflation is $32,000 in today's money. Sound familiar? That's the exact starting price of all the midsize trucks that we've been talking about. We made full-size trucks status symbols, and then we, the consumer, took out 96-month loans at 9% interest rates just to afford them. And what did the automakers do? They continued to raise prices over and over again until they priced the middle class out. And then they swooped in with the latest batch of mid-size trucks to fill the gap, and they priced them accordingly. And now we have compact trucks like the very excellent Ford Maverick sliding in at the bottom rung, where the full-size trucks used to sit just 10 to 15 years ago. Yay, capitalism? So yeah, the Toyota Tacoma is expensive. So is everything. The average new car transaction price is right at $50,000. That is insane. So if you don't want to buy the new Toyota Tacoma because you're mad about the price, or you're mad about the powertrains, or you're mad about the fact that the Toyota Tacoma is built in Mexico, then don't buy it. Go buy the previous Gen 1 or buy a used Tacoma. But maybe instead of hating on any new vehicle, whether it's the Toyota Tacoma or anything else, maybe admit to yourself that for the vast majority of us hardworking, normal Americans, maybe buying a super reliable 5 to 10-year-old used car is the smart thing to do in general. And maybe buying an overpriced new car that you can't actually afford and financing it for an ungodly amount of time at an insane interest rate is not the fault of the automakers. It's the fault of us. That's why Megan and I don't drive new cars. I mean, yes, we get to do this as part of our job, and it's fantastic, but a new car payment isn't something that we want or need right now. We don't make enough money on this channel or other things that we do to be buying a new car at a whim. And Ella needed a car to drive, and she's going off to college, and Hallie's gonna need a car to drive in 2 years, and they are gonna get reliable used cars. That's why Ella drives an old RAV4, and Hallie might get my aunt's old CRV, because buying a new car for us or them or anybody is a financial burden that we don't want. You know, just like buying a full-size truck as a daily driver or a luxury flex isn't a good idea. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. I personally think that all this hubbub about the Toyota Tacoma pricing is completely overblown. Not because the new Toyota Tacoma isn't expensive, but because everything is expensive, and other mid-sized trucks are expensive, and full-size trucks are out of freaking control. And if you want anything to change, then you have to make smarter choices. You don't have to shrug your shoulders and go, well, I wanted a F-150 King Ranch at $96,000, but I guess I'll settle for this Ford Ranger Raptor at $60,000. Look, I get it. I'm a car guy, just like some of you. Cars are cool, and I like cool cars. But I like living comfortably better. So be honest with yourself about what you need. Be honest with yourself about what you can afford, and be honest with yourself as a fan of any brand, And I'm kind of a GM guy. I like Toyota a lot. I really started to respect Ford. I've really liked some of their products recently, but I'm not really biased to any particular brand. We go on trips with all sorts of brands. I literally, behind the camera right now, have a Subaru Ascent as a test car, and everything is expensive. Actually, that Subaru Ascent is pretty good value. If you're wondering, stay tuned for a video on that soon enough. But everything is expensive. So before you let your biases toward any brand or model consume you, think about what you need, think about what you can afford, and let me know in the comments, are we to blame for this? Because I really think, unfortunately, it's more our fault than anyone else's. Let me know what you think of the video as well. I thought doing some like kind of news commentary style videos would help to break up the usual onslaught of reviews, and love to hear back from you. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, all of the good things. Megan and I always say it at the end of the videos because we figure if you make it this far, you'd actually consider doing it. We don't want to trouble you with doing it in the first 5 to 10 seconds of the video. Like, hey, welcome to our channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, even though you just met us. If you made it this far, you're probably more willing to. So comment down below if that's the case as well, and we'll see you in the next video. Trucks, making noise. Making not so good noise. Ugh.